afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this class. We are going to have the speech by Patrik. Patrik is already here. Thank you, Paula, for being here also. And we're going to start hearing Patrik. Patrik, you're going to tell the students that you're also a student and why you're here, because they want to learn about you, your experience, and in relation to freight forwarding. So let's do it, Patrik.
Yes, hello. I'm Patrik Mihich. I did an apprenticeship in Germany, dual education, and I finished it. And I came to Chile with an Erasmus program to connect the Logística. And I have a presentation prepared for you. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
Yes, Patrik, we can hear you. It looks kind of blurred.
Is it okay, or should I maybe?
It still looks blurred.
Is it better now?
Still looks blurred.
One moment. Give me a moment, please.
Much better now, Patrik. It's clear now.
Patrik, we are not hearing you. You have your microphone off.
I bet.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So the question was, what is the job of a freight forwarder? And I will be focusing on international transport in Germany by a bit. I will start with who am I and where did I learn about freight forwarding. I will speak about my dual education. I will give a simple explanation about what a freight forwarder is, why they matter, what's the difference between one and a carrier, comparing means of transport, what is or how does the transport work, and what is pre, main, and on carriage, LCL, FCL, and container types, how does LCL cargo change the pre and on carriage, Incoterms, customs declaration, bill of lading, letter of credit, and bill of lading. Then there's a Q&A at the end. Who am I? I am Patrik Mihich, 20 years old, from Germany. I had 3 years of dual education at Shriva Logistics. Shriva Logistics is a company with a head from Hamburg with close to 100 years of tradition. They focus mostly on international commerce with the Americas. They started with Latin America, and they have been also expanding into North America and other parts of the world. In my time there, I've worked in the sea freight department, importation and exportation side. I did some time in the air freight department and in pricing. Dual education in Germany is a system where you have 2 days a week you are at school and 3 days a week you are at the office or at the work. Many different professions offer this kind of education, not only freight forwarding, but also nurses or cooks or architects, a lot of different AI, programmer, like a lot of different professions have this system. I learned as freight forwarder. And the time there you are under contract from a company, you need to find a company that offers this kind of education. Then they will enlist you in a school that is based on the job. So I was at the freight forwarding school. And in the school and at the company, you learn the theory about freight forwarding. And in the company, you don't only learn the theory, but also through practical experience, you do the job. So I was the office and just doing shipments, importation, exportation for the company, organizing transports. A simple explanation is that usually you do that for companies where a company sold goods, oftentimes factories that finished producing something and that got bought by a store or someone in another country that wants to have it transported. And the goal is to do that the organize the transport cost effective, safe, and punctual on time. Usually this job is performed in an office, my job, and sometimes you need to go to the customs or somewhere in person or to a warehouse, but not so often. Why freight forwarders matter? Freight forwarders help to organize the customs and complex logistical problems for companies that, like factories, for example, they focus on producing things and not really on transporting them from their company to another place. Usually they rely on freight forwarders to do that for them. So they can focus on their main activity, that is producing or selling, buying something else, not on logistics. What's the difference between freight forwarders and carriers? Freight forwarders organize the transport, a bit like a travel agency that helps you organize the transport. But then if you go on a flight, for example, you go on the airplane that's from an airline, and the airline would be the carrier in this case. Carriers can also be trucking companies, or shipping companies. Furthermore, freight forwarders can also own their own trucks or ships or airplanes. In this case, they would be the carrier as well, but they would be both, not only the carrier. And also shipping companies are trying to get into the freight forwarding market. So they are also not only the carrier then, but also the freight forwarder. Comparing means of transport, I have here a table. You have trucking, train, aircraft, and ship. Those are the main four means of transport. Most transportation is done by truck because it's the easiest. It's not the fastest, but you can get the truck everywhere in the world. It's really connectable and yeah, but quite expensive for compared to the other means of transport. The train transport is also only for larger goods usually used. It's pretty fast. You are limited by the accessibility to train terminals and to the rail, so you cannot always use them, depending if there isn't or it's really full. Sometimes they don't have enough capacity. The aircraft is really fast. It's pretty accessible since you have airports in most parts of the world. And it's quite expensive to fly, but it's really fast. Like in 3 days, you get something across the world. Shipping is the cheapest way of transport because it has a really high capacity. But it's really slow, so sometimes that's not what you want to do. Yes. Mostly on trucking, you try to truck smaller goods, not too big, because then train or shipping makes more sense. If you have large quantities of like multiple containers or something. Aircraft is also more for small goods. Like, how does the transport usually work, and what is pre-main and on carriage? Transport usually is from the shipper, it's called, the one that sold the goods and needs to export them. The shipper contacts us, like the freight forwarder, and we organize the transport for them. Usually on one side, usually you have a freight forwarder doing the exportation and another one doing the importation side, because different countries have different regulations. And we don't, for example, if you import from China, someone in freight forwarder in China will organize the export and send you the relevant documentation so you can organize the importation. So the shipper contacts a freight forwarder and tells them, I have goods, please go pick them up and bring them to the destination country to this address. So you organize the transport by truck or by rail, depending on possibility, and if it's smaller goods, usually by truck. If it's large quantities, it's better by rail if you have the possibility. And then it goes to the terminal. This could also be an airport in theory, an airport terminal, where it gets loaded and then shipped or flown to the destination country, where it's picked up at the terminal, again, depending on the good, depending on the possibilities, picked up by truck or rail to the consignee. And the pre-carriage would be this part from the shipper to the port. The main carriage is the main transport, so by ship or by airplane. And the on carriage is the importation side from the terminal to the consignee. LCL, FCL explained, and the different container types. LCL means less than container load, meaning the goods, we are talking about the quantity of goods here, cannot fill a container, so it's less than container load. And FCL is a full container load, meaning it's one or multiple containers that will be filled with the quantity of goods that the shipper has. Here you can use for the transport, depending on the good, 20 or 40-foot containers. Those are standard sizes. The 20-foot is the standard size, but mostly the large containers of 40-foot are used. So trucks, warehouses, all the machines that move containers or cranes are all built to fit those standard sizes. So not different countries use different measurements. That is still the case on pallets or something that can create sometimes logistical problems. And here you don't have that. All those containers can also come in 20 or 40-foot sizes. You have reefers. Those are refrigerated containers. They are used for some medicine or food or something that needs to be refrigerated during transport. You have open top containers that are open on the top for really tall goods that cannot fit inside a container. You have flat racks. Those are more like a platform where you can put heavy machinery that also wouldn't be able to fit like in the sides, and it's oversized goods that just don't fit on a normal container. You just put them on a platform. And you have tank containers that are for liquids. How does LCL cargo change the pre and on carriage? And what is consolidation? Here in this system, you have the multiple shippers that are in different locations. Let's take Germany, for example. You have one in Munich, one in Frankfurt, one in Berlin, and one in Poland or so. And they all send their shipments, all LCL shipments, so not enough to fill a container. You group them together in Hamburg, like all at the port, all at the same warehouse, and you put them all together, all the shipments together that go, for example, to Chile. So you group all of the shipments together in Hamburg, and consolidate a container. You get a container that goes to Chile and get all the goods in the container to fill the container. So it goes from an LCL to an FCL because it's a full container. And you send the full container then to Chile, where it's split apart again to the different consignees. For example, Santiago, Valparaiso, and so on. Incoterms. Incoterms are the international standards on international shipments. They are always used for international transports since it regulates where the shipper or the consignee pay for the transport, since that needs to be decided beforehand who is paying for the transport. And the Incoterms decide at what stage who is paying and who is taking the risk. The exclamation mark is the risk in this example. If the goods get damaged or something, who's gonna need to pay for the damages? The main ones are Ex-Works, FOB, CFR, and DAP. Ex-Works means the shipper only needs to prepare the goods for shipment, and then the consignee needs to organize everything, usually through freight forwarders, from pickup till delivery at the warehouse. The F, they are also organized by number, by letters at the front. F means free, carrier, free alongside ship, or free on board, meaning it will be between delivering at the port or in between from the factory till delivering at the port. FOB is the most used for naval transport or with containers, where the container needs to be, the shipper pays until the container is put on the ship, and then the consignee needs to pay the rest of the transport till delivery. C means costs. Costs is mostly about the cost about the main carriage, so the transport by air or by ship, that this is included from the shipper's perspective. All those Incoterms are always from the shipper's perspective, than names. So the shipper pays on costs, he pays the naval transport, plus depending on which Incoterm you used, maybe until the destination. And delivery is always with destination included. D is delivery here in this, the last three. And DAP is delivery at place. That can be the destination place or sometimes just a warehouse at the port or somewhere closer. The custom declaration all around the world, you need following documents: a commercial invoice with the price of the goods, so they can be taxed, a bill of lading, that is the main transportation bill, proof of transportation from the carrier, so you can see exactly from where it came to where it's going and the weight and quantities. In the packing list, you have it more detailed, the weight and quantities, of the goods, and also each good has different codes. It's called HS code. It's international same customs codes. Worldwide, it's 6 numbers, and every type of good has a customs number. For example, gold or coal or a glass of water or a plastic bottle has everything you can imagine has a customs code. And this is 6 numbers. And then each country has their own additional numbers for the customs that are put in the back. So in Germany, it goes up to 11 numbers, the customs code. And with that, for each good, in theory, if you have a full container, you can have all of the same good, also different goods. For each good, you need to give the customs number and the commercial value of each individual good, so you can the importation or exportation customs knows exactly what's getting imported and exported, the quantities. That's why they want the weight of the goods, and they know the worth, so they can tax you based on it. Furthermore, depending on what you're importing or exporting, you might need more documentation. For example, if you have weapons, uranium, or dangerous goods, or sometimes they want more documentation on special things or woods or something or animal fur that's not illegal or counterfeited. The bill of lading, you have different variations. As I told you again already, it's the main proof of transport from the carrier for the main carriage that they are gonna do it, and it shows exactly what's getting transported. You have an original, you have express and seaway bills and airway bills. I will show you here a picture. This is an airway bill and this is a seaway bill. With the airway bill, you can see here, for example, the goods are getting picked up at Tambo International and go to Heathrow, Great Britain. So you can see where it's getting transported, you see the weight, you see how many packages, 9, and you have 900 kilos here, for example. And this is a bill of lading, so a sea document for ocean transport, where you have also here too. On the top, you always have the shipper, and at the second, you always have the consignee who is getting the goods. Here as well, you can see from port of loading to port of discharge. So you see where it's going, and here you have the information about the container, the amount of packages, and a description of goods with weights and measurements. On the sea side, that's not applicable for air freight, but for sea freight, you always have the, or you can have an original bill of lading. That means if you have an original, you need to go with the original, you need to send it to the carrier at the destination port, so they will release your container. Without the original, your container will not be released by the carrier, by the shipping line. And or you can because sometimes it takes some time, because the originals sometimes are only printed in the exportation country, so you would have to send them. They can be surrendered, meaning the shipper goes to the shipping line in the exportation country and tells them, okay, I will surrender the BL, I got my payment for the goods, because oftentimes the goods will be paid during the transport, or the part gets paid before, and a second part will be paid during the transport, during the sea freight. So once the payment arrives, the shipper can go to the shipping company with an original bill of lading and say, I will surrender it, and then it will be stamped. And the consignee can get a copy of this and print it himself and go with the copy with the surrendered BL to the shipping company and say, okay, here the bill of lading has been surrendered. I want to get the goods, the container, and it will be released. Furthermore, you can also create immediate bill of can create express or seaway bills. They are pretty much the same. That means you don't even have original and it will be surrendered immediately. But that's mostly done between companies that know each other and are sure of getting their payment. You have a letter of credit and an original bill of lading. So a letter of credit, this is the most interesting part for the banking sector, meaning the letter of credit is a transport bill that's done usually before transport is happening or before it's organized, where if the shipper isn't sure about getting his payment from the consignee, because as I told you, sometimes payments happen during transport, they can create a letter of credit with two banks, one in the shipper's country and one in the consignee's country. They go to the bank and they create a letter of credit that fixes how the transport is gonna happen, and uh, and they guarantee for the shipper that he's gonna get his payment once the shipment is completed. So if the consignee at the end doesn't pay, the bank will compensate the shipper for it and will try the bank then to get payment from the consignee. And the consignee gets guaranteed to receive his goods or compensation if the goods don't arrive on time. And with the bill of lading, it will be created once the container is placed on the ship from the carrier or also from the airline. And this gives the shipper the ability, as I told you again already, to control once the goods will be released from side of the carrier. And it can help as guarantee of payment if the buyer is still paying. So you can say, until I didn't get my payment, the goods won't be released to the consignee by the carrier. And the consignee will be guaranteed to receive his goods once he has gotten the document from the shipper. So once the shipper has released the goods, he can send the original to the buyer, to the consignee, and he can go pick up the goods at the port. Here are some examples of an original bill of lading and an letter of credit. This bill of lading is pretty much the same as this, only that it's not surrendered but original. The formatting is different. Every company has their own formatting of bill of ladings. So this is from Maersk, from the carrier. Here you can see again one container, how many bags. You can see the number of the container here, the weight. Yeah. And on this side, you have the letter of credit. Here you see the beneficiary, that's the shipper. And the applicant is the consignee. And here you decide the amount and you decide, it gives you a lot of power. The letter of credit, you can establish a lot of things. Depending on the transport, you can leave more or less information in the letter of credit. Depending, you can decide, I want to use that the freight forwarder uses this ship exactly, the name, this hour, this time, and the goods need to arrive at this time. If not, the letter of credit will fail, and it will create a reputational loss for the freight forwarder because he didn't manage to do the transport of letter of credit. So usually letter of credits are more expensive to do because you need to pay a fee for the bank, since they're also risking the transport not succeeding. And you need to pay the freight forwarder also an additional amount, since he's also risking his reputation, and he needs to pay more attention that the shipment succeeds successfully in time while following all the regulations. Letter of credits usually are used more for first-time deals, or if you are not sure of receiving your goods or the payment, depending if you are a consignee or shipper. They will be used, but mostly if the companies know each other and have been trading for a longer time, they won't use letter of credits. Since it's also really difficult, also for the first time use, it's really difficult if you paid for your goods, for example, you're importing from China and you paid for your goods and then you don't get your goods. Legally, it's quite difficult and really challenging to go sue the Chinese company if you are in Chile or in Germany. It will be quite difficult to sue them and a lot of work, so you create letter of credits so you won't have to you won't have those problems. That was my presentation. If you have any questions, and yeah, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Patrik. Do any of my students have any questions that you would like to ask Patrik? None? All right. Well, thank you very much, Patrik, for your time, and I will be seeing you tomorrow. Thank you very much, Paula, for being here with us also. Thanks a lot. Very interesting. Thank you. I will be seeing you. Thank you to all the students that you were here. You probably will have some questions for me when I get to see you again. So I will see you next week, students. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, honey.